Okay, I'm working on this quilt again, and I'm working on the border patterns, working in the border quilt group. So let's see, I have already relocated this. I placed a needle at the end of the last pattern that was stitched on the left side of the border, and I did a relocate. So I just came up and I did a relocate. I right clicked, went down, did relocate, shift all to one point. I have the end snap turned on, left clicked on that point, clicked yes, and it did relocate everything around that point. But now you have to remember, the right hand side is probably not going to be perfectly lined up. It is okay horizontally, looks like it's pretty close, but I can guarantee you that you will also have to do another relocate on this right side whenever you get ready to quilt your border. So I'll put the needle over here at the end point of the last pattern that was stitched in that right border, and I'll show you that you see it's off by a little bit here. It's not much, but that will have to be corrected when I get ready to quilt this border. So another thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to stitch this side and then the interior and then this side. So now I'm going to have to take this and toggle it as sewn, because that's where it wants to start stitching. Okay, so now I'll set everything up and show you exactly how I'll go about getting everything into the correct position. First thing I need here is a boundary, and I'll draw a boundary around this left side. Okay, I have my boundary drawn, and I'm looking at this and saying, okay, I can quilt this, repeat, another repeat, and I'm not going to be able to quilt that repeat, you can see, because it's going to be beyond the boundary. So I'll just get rid of that one, unselect it. I toggle all of these as unsewn. Now I have this many, but you see it wants to start here and end up there, but that's not what I want. I want it to start there and stitch down the side towards the belly bar. So how can I do this? I'm going to try this and see if it works. Okay, so I want this to start stitching up here and stitch down this way, and so I'm going to select all of these and combine them. Then I can reverse the start and end. So I'm going to start with this one. Okay. Now what I want to do is reverse the start and end. I have them selected. It says it starts there, ends there. Well, I just right click, but see, I do not have reverse start and end as an option. I'll combine the patterns. Then when I right click, it gives me the option to reverse the start and end. The only thing I don't like about this is I may have to adjust an individual repeat, but that's no problem because I can always use divide. So I'm going to get these into position, and I'm going to select this whole group, right click, relocate, shift selected to one point. Okay, now the point that I want to use to do this is this point right here. This is the point I want to relocate over to that point. So I'll just click on it, and since the needle is sitting where I want this to go to, okay, when I click yes, you see it just moved it right over to this place. I'll select it. I'm going to get my end anchors, turn off my end snap, and move this a little bit like that. Okay, I may want to get my side anchors here, so I can maybe adjust this a little bit. So I want to make this a little bit larger out this way. That's about as good as I can do with this. Now I could go and individually select individual repeats, get my nodes, and where I would want to divide it would be right here at this point. That's where the repeats connect. Hit my D key, go down to the next one, and hit my D key again. Now I have 3 individual repeats. There you go. Back to individual repeats. I might want to do that because I might want to move this a little bit. See, I can increase that, get my end anchors, and move this out. Get this one, turn on end snap. I think I'm going to turn off the end snap, move this one just a little bit, gets this one, turn on end snap, snap it. See, try to place those very carefully in that boundary. Okay, this border is quilted. I don't need this boundary anymore, so I'm going to delete that. Now I'm going to go to the interior of this, and I'll quilt this border after I quilt the interior part of this quilt. Here's my interior section. Now here's something that's weird. This little pattern that I placed here, and I marked this point on the quilt with a piece of thread so that I could do a relocate, because there's not a very good place in this pattern to do what I want to do, and the start and end point are up above the bottom of the pattern. So I made this little, I called it a push pin a long time ago, so that I would have something I could place on a quilt and would give me a definite spot. But I have to remember to mark that spot on the quilt somehow, and what I do is I just take a single stitch and have leave the thread in there. I secure the thread somehow, and then I use that point where I did the single stitch to use to relocate. So I have the needle sitting right at the end of this, and you can see where my crosshair tells me that everything is way up there. So now all I need to do is do a relocate. I'm going to select this pattern, get up here where I can get it. Okay, select that pattern, and I'll do a relocate, shift all to one point, and the point I want to use is that point right there. Click yes. Now everything is located around this point right here. So everything's lined up again, and I'll be able to quilt this next area. First I'll draw a boundary, I'll get it all set up and do the adjustments.